This is the Night Wolf howling at you, and today we're going to take a look at the G.I. Joe, a Real American Hero, Reaction Plus figure from Super 7 of Cobra Commander, the Enemy Leader. I said all that without taking a breath. This is, of course, part of Super 7's O-Ring line, and this version of Cobra Commander is actually based on more of the animated series than the original figure from the 80s. Although I do have a version of Cobra Commander from the 80s to actually compare him to. On the back of the box, we see all the other versions of the figures in the wave. The comic version of Snake Eyes, CoverGirl, which ended up, the more I looked at her, became more and more of a disappointment to me, even though she was the one I was the most excited about. Our Cobra Commander here, and the Cobra Bat, based on the comic, which is the only one I have not gotten in yet. And they recreated the file card from the 80s. In fact, to be perfectly honest, I'm pretty sure this is mostly a recreation of the artwork from the 80s as well. Slightly different. Cobra Commander, the Enemy Leader. File name, classified. Primary military specialty, intelligence. Although with the way he was shown in the show, intelligence did not seem to be a strong point. Secondary military specialty, ordnance, experimental weaponry. Birthplace, classified. Grade, Commander-in-Chief. Absolute power, total control of the world, its people, wealth, and resources. That's the objective of Cobra Commander. This fanatical leader rules with an iron fist. He demands total loyalty and allegiance. His main battle plan for world control relies on revolution and chaos. He personally led uprisings in the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and other trouble spots, responsible for kidnapping scientists, businessmen, and military leaders, then forcing them to reveal their top-level secrets. Cobra Commander is hatred and evil personified, corrupt, a man without scruples, probably the most dangerous man alive. And yeah, if you watch the original miniseries for G.I. Joe, Cobra Commander actually is a scary mofo, and seems pretty competent then. It's just, as the series went on, he just became kind of a buffoon, which is a shame. But it's easier to go ahead and keep a strong enemy in a mini-series than it is in an ongoing series when you get right down to it. Because when you watch a lot of those old cartoons from like the 80s, especially ones that have like a mini-series to start them off, the Ninja Turtles were the same way, right? Shredder and Krang were actually forces to be reckoned with originally, and then as it went on, they became dumber and dumber. But let's go ahead and open this sucker up. I really kind of messed that up, didn't I? Well, I think this gun is kind of more of a cartoon accurate weapon. This one kind of looks like they attempted to recreate his gun from the old 80s toy line. But aside from that, I don't know where this came from. I'm impressed at how much of a pain in the butt it is to try to get the figures out of the plastic. Here. So our Cobra Commander here has a smooth back. That is definitely different from what they did in the 80s with Cobra Commander, which I will show you in a little bit. But it also means there is nowhere to store his weapons. Head-wise, he just has a swivel, and it doesn't really go all the way around, so you can only spin him that far. Though they did use a nice metallic paint on his face mask. For some reason, they also used it on his neck, which probably should have just been left blue like the rest of his uniform. Looks like it's a full Cobra logo and not the Mickey Mouse logo that, accidentally got done originally in the 80s. I kind of like the lapel details here too. That's kind of a nice surprise. Articulation wise though, O-ring allows us to wiggle him all around, allows us to pull his hips down a bit here. Arms we can hinge way up. Actually, that is actually pretty nice. I don't think we've had an action figure that really kind of was able to lift their arms that high recently in the 6-inch lines or Masters of the Universe even. Spin around. We got the bicep cut. Although the bicep cut is, well, I guess it is about the same height as on the previous G.I. Joe figures. But I actually thought it was higher previously. But no. We have a single joint at the elbow. Well, the bicep cut obviously makes it spin. The wrist has no swivel or anything like that. You can't hinge it at all. The hand, the entire forearm and hand is a single piece. We already went over the waist joint. The commander can kick up. You can kick back a little bit. You can have him kind of kick out. But of course, you can really do the splits too if you're willing to pull the O-ring. One of my previous viewers, and I'm sorry I can't think of your name offhand, had mentioned under the CoverGirl review, however, that the O-rings that they're putting in these new figures are actually too small. And he swapped his out with a standard G.I. Joe O-ring size O-ring, and that the figure moves better that way. Just to let you guys know, my microphone died and I had to swap it out. We do have a hinge at the knee. Does a little better than 90. He's got stirrups for his pants to his boots. Now we have his weapons here. This one is more of an animation accurate weapon. I vaguely remember seeing this one in the show at one point. This one kind of looks like it's based on his original gun, but not quite. I don't know where this came from otherwise. But now we'll try putting them in his hands, and hopefully, unlike with the CoverGirl, we won't get any paint scrapings off of his hand from the guns. You know, this bicep joint here is really, really loose, by the way. That's kind of too bad. The other one's fine. Doesn't look too bad. Holds the guns just fine. Now we'll slide them out. I do not notice any paint damage on that hand. And I don't see any on this hand. So that worked out pretty well. Now that being said, I do have a vintage version of Cobra Commander to compare him to. And it is, surprisingly, the mail-away hooded version of Cobra Commander. Kind of funny that I have like the arguably rarer mail-away version than the actual original version. Although actually, I think the mail-away version may have been the first one you could get. I don't know. Somebody would have to tell me, because I mean, I obviously didn't mail away for this one myself. I just ended up with it in my collection. That being said, here's a fun bit of information for you. The idiot who was put in charge of the G.I. Joe live action movies, you know, those really terrible freaking movies that made very little sense, is the person who came up with, "Don't you think that the Cobra Commander hood looks like a KKK hood? I think it's racist because I'm a moron." That's right. The person who gave us really shitty movies also gave us a shitty take on the hood. And he is also the reason why apparently Hasbro has decided that they will not be giving us a hooded Cobra Commander in the classified line. Which, come on Hasbro, let's not be stupid. Only idiots think that that is supposed to be a KKK hood. But anyway, comparison-wise, as you can see, The glove design is different, going more for the animation accurate one. He still has the stirrup pants, though it's hard to tell because of the darker blue nature and the yellowing of this figure. Which I wonder if I can actually fix that yellowing issue. I know if you use figures with white plastic that have yellowed and throw it into like hydrogen peroxide in the sun for a couple days, it'll clear that up, but I don't know if that'll work on plastic that's like blue and gray and stuff. But anyway, the figures do stand roughly the same height, which makes sense. This is what I was talking though about with the back, and this is kind of why the classified Cobra Commander has that really janky looking backpack part, is that they were recreating this look. And man, I don't know if you can see that, but that is a really rusty screw back there. But yeah, Cobra Commander's gun used to fit in that slot. Not that this one does, and again, this one's kind of looks like it. Overall, I am more impressed with the Cobra Commander Super 7 ReAction Plus figure than I was with the CoverGirl figure. But in this case, you know, they weren't exactly trying to hide the feminine form on Cobra Commander, right? This one is definitely, though, I think the better figure out of the two I've looked at so far. I still have the Crimson Twins and their extensive Enterprises suits to go over, and the comic version of Snake Eyes. I won't be able to do the bat, obviously, until it comes in. Mine's on back order. I guess a lot of people decided to troop build the comic accurate bats. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look at the Cobra Commander from the ReAction Plus line. This was actually a worthwhile version to get, so if you do want him, go for it. And please leave a like, especially if you think that the idiot that they put in charge of the live action G.I. Joe movies is a frickin' moron. Thanks for watching. Peace and love. This fanatical leader runs with an iron fist. Shit.